Before I talk about how I turned $0 into over $1 million in less than a year by buying 6 rental properties without using any of my own money, I want to talk about a simple yet powerful concept that blew my mind. It changed my life, and it changed my family's lives for generations to come.
We talking about freedom?
Back when I was working a W-2 job, I wouldn't say that I was unhappy, but I was unsatisfied. I remember looking around and seeing people with these luxury cars and these yachts and these vacation homes, and not that I even necessarily wanted those at the time. The thing that disappointed me was people had those and I would never have those things because I didn't come from money. See, I was under the impression that you had to come from money or inherit money to have those amazing luxurious things. I didn't know that you could create wealth from nothing. I didn't think it was possible for normal people like me and you watching to create massive wealth in a short period of time. The math just didn't compute in my head that you can come from nothing to multi-millionaire in just a few years. I didn't see how the two connected. So just the fact that I felt like I had a ceiling and couldn't reach where those people were was a little disheartening. Then I stumbled into real estate investing. So while I had a full-time job, I was investing in real estate on the side. After I did a few deals and kind of saw behind the curtain of real estate investing, I realized that I could create as much wealth as I wanted, as quickly as I wanted. And honestly, that's really what I want from this video. I want you to understand and see a path to financial freedom for you. It's probably a lot simpler and closer than you can imagine. I'm gonna break this video down into 3 simple sections. The first section, I'm gonna talk about some conceptual foundational things that will help you get to where you want to go. Secondly, I wanna give you some tactical things and some things that I did and some do's and don'ts that I utilized to buy those 6 rental properties in my first year that equated to $1 million. And lastly, I want to get into some vision components and talk about some things that can help you set the vision for your life. Now, I'm not going to get too woo-woo, but that third section is the most important section. I know people say that, but definitely stick around till then. Conceptual, leverage debt to buy assets, AKA buy rental properties using none of your own money. I didn't know this growing up because we're not really taught this, but this concept is how all businesses grow. The US economy, the world economy runs on leveraging debt. For example, Apple is usually sitting on around $200 billion in cash, and they're usually sitting on around $100 billion in debt, borrowing money from banks and from investors. So they're always sitting on 2 times as much cash as debt they have, which means they could pay off their debt and still be sitting on $100 billion in cash. Apple knows, like all savvy business owners and multimillionaires, that is the most efficient way to grow and scale and create wealth is by borrowing money. Now, if you're like me, you don't even have 1/100% of the cash that Apple has, so you don't even have the luxury of paying cash if you want it. Fortunately for us, there's this thing called real estate. Have you heard of it? Everybody needs it, and you can borrow money to buy it. In a nutshell, the concept is borrowing money to buy real estate and taking the cash that real estate produces and pay off who you borrowed the money from. It's not easy, but it is pretty simple. I like to say it's as simple as ABC, where A stands for asset, B stands for borrow, and C stands for cash flow. So you borrow money to buy an asset that produces cash, take the cash that asset produces, and pay off who you borrowed the money from. Now, there's more nuance to it than that, but in general, at its foundation, that's how simple it really is. Now, you may be thinking, no one will actually do that. That's not a real thing, Sam. Well, I'm sitting in this chair in front of you right now, and I bought over $42 million worth of real estate without using any of my own money, doing exactly what I'm talking about. In this next section, I'm gonna give you a little bit more tactical details on how to do it, but in general, just know it is possible. It's not easy, but it is simple. It requires hard work and persistence and failing and winning and pushing forward, but it sure beats working for somebody else until you're 65 and retiring when you're too old to actually enjoy that retirement. Back when I got started, my goal was to buy 1 rental property a year for 10 years. Looking back, it doesn't look like a huge goal, but at the time, it was a pretty big goal because I didn't really know anybody that owned any rental properties. So that first year, I went all in and ended up buying 6 rental properties that I've talked about, and I got hooked. I figured out some systems and created some processes, and since then I've done it about 270 times in the next 8 years. Here are some tactical takeaways that you can implement right now to move the needle quickly. I bought all 6 rental properties utilizing the Burrs Method. More on that here momentarily, but I remember looking back after about a year, maybe a little over a year of investing at my rental portfolio, all 6 properties, and I was adding up the values, and they were worth anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000, and I ended up adding them up, and it was over $1 million in portfolio value. I remember just thinking, holy crap, I just bought $1 million worth of real estate in a year without using any of my own money, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And at the time, I still didn't really even know what I was doing. If I wanted to own $1 million in stocks, I was gonna have to have $1 million. If I wanted to go to the bank and say, give me a loan for $100,000 to go buy stocks or crypto or pretty much anything, they would laugh me out of the bank. However, if I went to the right bank and asked for $100,000 to buy a rental property, they would take me to the back room and have me sign on the dotted line immediately. That process that I used that changed everything is called the Burrs Method. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale. Let's go over it here briefly. This is kind of my shtick, so there's a ton of videos on social media about this. It all starts out with a distressed property. You have to buy a property at a discount, and unfortunately, nice fix-up houses just aren't selling at discounts now and probably ever. So what you do is you find a distressed property and you buy it using somebody else's money. Private lender, hard money lender, not gonna go into a ton of detail on those now, I will here momentarily. So you buy a distressed property using somebody else's money. The next step is to repair that distressed property using that same person's money. So let's say you bought a house for $100,000 that needed $50,000 in repairs. So you borrow $150,000 to buy and fix up a property. The next step is to take that nicely fixed up property and get it rented. Tenants love moving into rehabbed houses, especially great tenants. So now that you got the property bought, fixed up, and rented, you take it to a small local bank, and this part will blow your mind because it still kind of blows my mind to this day. A small local bank, not your big box banks, but a small local bank will literally write you a check for up to 80% of the appraised value. So I'm all in that house for 150 grand. I owe somebody else that money plus interest. The bank appraised that property for $200,000. So they wrote me a check for 80% of that, which is 160 grand. I took that $160,000 and I paid back my initial lenders plus interest. So now they're paid off, they're good. I'm still collecting rent. Now I do owe the bank that $160,000, but I owe them that over 25, maybe 30 years at a pretty low interest rate. So I'm able to take that rent and cover the mortgage plus all owning expenses and cash flow left over. So at this point, I own a fixed up asset that is producing rent. I didn't use any of my own money to buy it. And then I do that over and over and create wealth and get onto the scale step, which I'm not going to get into right now, but scaling and creating systems and processes around that to do it at a bigger, better, faster pace is how wealth's created. The main question I get asked when I explain that in person or on social media is how do I find the deals and how do I find other people's money? So let's briefly talk about those. I found my first 6 rental properties from wholesalers and real estate agents. Those should be your number 1 and 2 sources you're looking for if you're looking to buy less than 20 houses a year, which is most people. You don't need to spend a ton of money on marketing to get leads. You just need to connect with the people that have those leads. So wholesalers, I probably bought 3 of my first 6 houses from wholesalers. Those are people that go out every single day and look for specifically distressed properties that can be bought at a discount. They spend the money on marketing, they spend the time networking, and they get a property under contract with enough meat on the bone to sell to you where it still works, where you can buy it with using none of your own money. They don't want to close on it, they don't want to own it, they don't want to do anything with it, they just want to get paid a fee for transacting a distressed seller and a real estate investor. So get to know these at your local meetups, on your local Facebook groups. There are a ton of wholesalers in every town. Get to know a few, connect with them, treat them fairly, and they will continually bring you leads week after week, month after month, year after year. Similarly with real estate agents, they're not looking for distressed properties per se, but they do come across distressed properties because a good real estate agent is going to do 15 to 20 deals a year. So they're going to eventually come across a distressed house or a distressed seller or somebody that needs a quick, fair cash offer. That's when they contact you. They don't contact you on 19 of the 20 deals that they do that are in perfect condition or close to perfect condition that are going to sell in the market for market price. No, they bring you that one that's going to be a pain in the butt for them to sell, that won't pass inspection, that has a ton of work needed. They call you, you give them and their client a fair cash offer. They can take it, or they can decide to list it and deal with all the inspection nightmares, or they can put 50 grand into it and make it livable. Usually they don't want those 2 options. They want the easy button, and you can become that. So if you spend the next 6 to 12 months cultivating relationships with wholesalers and real estate agents, you should be able to get a handful of buys a year without using any of your own money. The next part is finding the money. Now this may seem daunting, but there is more money out there than deals, and it's not even close. The 2 sources that I would look after for your initial buy and rehab of the Burrs Method would be private lenders and hard money lenders. Hard money lenders are super easy to find. Just Google hard money lenders near me, ask other investors, or look them up in local Facebook groups. Private lenders lenders are a little bit harder to find, but that is your golden goose right there. You find 1 or 2 solid private money lenders and you can grow as much wealth as you want while providing a safe return to them. I'm not going to go into detail there because there's a lot that goes into private lenders, but check out this video above where I go into a ton of detail on how to find private money lenders, or preferably wait till the end of this video here in a couple minutes and I will put the link to that video there. Vision. When I got started, my vision was not to quit my job or buy $40 million worth of rental properties and become an entrepreneur with several successful real estate investing businesses. My vision was just to buy 1 rental property for 10 years. Looking back, it was very small, but at least a vision was there. Having something on paper or in your head or on your mirror at home, having a written down vision will help you get there much faster, because simply it occupies space in your mind. You're seeing it written down, you're talking about it, you're thinking about it. And if you didn't know, your thoughts become your actions and your actions become your legacy. So if you start to think about a vision clearly and put it out in the world, and then you will eventually start to take actions to hopefully get there, those actions will lead to tangible things and wealth down the line. So creating a vision is super, super important. If my vision was just to hopefully buy 1 rental property, maybe I would have started, maybe I wouldn't have, but not seeing much further than that would have been potentially detrimental to my growth and me actually taking action. So just having a little bit bigger vision than you're comfortable with is extremely important. If you don't hit it, it's not the end of the world. It's your vision written on your freaking mirror in your bathroom. Not the end of the world, but at least having one is important. So how do you come up with a vision? Take ayahuasca with Aaron Rodgers down his deep cave? No, probably not. That's one way to do it, but just having a strong foundational why is key. Everybody's vision is going to be different. Yours is going to be different than mine, than your friends, than your coworkers. Whoever they are, that's the reason it's called their vision. But having a strong foundational why and reason to invest and reason to spend extra time and energy watching this video, going to meetups and actually meeting people, having that strong foundational why is a great thing to lean back on. Maybe you want to be the first person to become a millionaire in your family. Maybe you want to buy your parents a house and retire them early. Maybe you want to retire in the next 10 years. Whatever it looks like, just having a strong vision can be your backbone, because guess what? As I said earlier, this is not easy. It is simple, but it's not easy. It requires a lot of hard work and you're gonna fail a lot. So having something foundational to lean back on when you fail, because you will, is very important, because the only time people fail is when they give up. I don't know any successful real estate investors that haven't failed multiple times. The only unsuccessful ones are the ones that stop. So if you persevere and keep going forward, you will eventually get there, I promise. If you're still watching, hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video, and I would appreciate a like and sharing this with a friend. As I promised earlier, here's a private lender video.